yours.
Alrighty. So we're going to look at some of the differences between Ramco 5.7 and Ramco 5.4. The biggest difference you'll see is at the top, the display of it. So business process is what you used to see. So here's what you've seen before in the top left-hand corner. In the top center is BPC. BPC stands for business process and component. So it's really the same thing, just a little bit different of a look. When you click on it, it's going to be all of your same drop-downs. Actually, let me change so that you'll see what you're seeing. Oh, we can't do it in this one. Okay. You guys won't have nearly as many drop-downs. This is because it's set up for AMC Champion user. So you'll see the normal drop-downs that you're used to seeing. There are 3 links that have changed. Instead of going to line maintenance, aircraft maintenance execution, and then record aircraft maintenance execution, the first one has changed to just aircraft maintenance. A nice thing, a new feature that they've added is the search box over here. So before, you would have to go through, click on your links, wait for it, and, try to line it up just right. Now you can type in some keywords. So if we put in record, it'll pull it up, and it'll load as you're typing. So the more you type, the shorter your list is going to be. And then once you get close enough to what you want, you can just click on that link, and it'll pull it right up. Now, going back to the original page, when you first go into it, it's blank. But these icons up here, if you want to go to your dashboard, you can click Show Workspace, and it's going to pull up your dashboard. Now, another thing I want to warn everybody about is your initial time in Ramco 5.7. Each page is going to have to load its cache, and it's going to take longer each original time. Every time after that, it'll be back to normal speeds. But the first time you go to Ramco 5.7, each individual page is going to take longer than normal until you visited that page. Now, and I'm waiting for the dashboard to load. After this, I'm going to show you some other changes here. Okay. So that first day, it's going to take some time. So please just be patient. This is why the dashboards aren't going to load automatically, is because it will take longer to load the dashboard, especially the first time. And they just brought it down and brought it back up. So I'm not sure if that's why it's taking the extra time. One thing I do want to point out, though, when you're on the dashboards, and here it finally is, so it's going to be pretty much what you're used to right now. You'll have to filter it and play with it a little bit, and we'll come out with some more on this. We'll have to play more with the dashboard. These icons up here, they're going to be dependent on your role. But the dashboard is going to have quite a bit of different changes, so don't worry about this. We'll go into more detail on this when we get closer to it, and we'll train it in more depth. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the differences that we're going to see. So we're going to go back to the line maintenance. That's where you guys spend a lot of your time. Now, the pages are going to have differences in display, and the biggest reason is because they're loading it to where it can be used on tablets and phones in the future. So because of that, they had to change a lot of the display so that it'll be available, so there's more scrolling options. It's a simpler format so that there's less to load, which should also help with the speed. So here's the new one. Here's what we were used to before. Come on. So under business process, and then line maintenance, aircraft maintenance execution details, And this is why typing in the search feature is also nice. You don't have to worry about getting it to come up. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to go through my favorites. All right, so some of the changes are things that you guys are going to notice. Honestly, you may not even notice that they're different because they're so similar and they're placed in the same location. So for example, if we go to the component replacement tab, there's going to be small changes like remove disposition / condition. And that's the same over here. It's just removed condition. So small changes like that, you guys won't, I know you won't have any issue with. You'll see it. If you're unsure, if you click the drop down, it's pretty clear whether it's serviceable or unserviceable. There's some other features on here that are really nice. So for example, there's a removal quantity. Now this is only applicable for lock controlled parts. For serial controlled parts, obviously we need to have the part number and the serial number for each removed part and installed part. If it's a serialized part, leave these fields blank, the removed quantity and attached quantity. They'll automatically change to 1, so you don't have to do anything different. But for lock-controlled parts, you can do a removal only, put in your part number. You can do, your removed quantity of 10, and it's going to create the removal and the return for the quantity that you selected. So if you put in 10, you'll have 10 that will go to processing. All right. So that is a nice feature there. Another thing that I like a lot is in any part number field, when you start typing in a part number, there's going to be a auto-population for the part number. And that way you can find your parts, you can finish typing it, or you can just scroll down and select it. And then it'll show you the part number and the description. What's nice about that is giving you the part number, it'll help with formatting. So, sometimes on your paperwork it'll be missing a dash or added a dash, and you can't find that part when it's a simple formatting issue. So it'll help with that. Another thing is it'll show the part description. If there's 2 part numbers, but we're trying to get everyone to switch to, the original version or the, a specific part number, on the part description, it'll say use part number, and it'll list the part number that is desired. So instead of using, 16 Tango, if there was an alternate, it wanted to be 16 dash Tango, it would say that in the part description. So some other screens I want to point out that are quite a bit different. So before we had business process, storage, stock management, stock maintenance, and then inquire warehouse stock balance and inquire stock balance. Both of these screens are now going to be consolidated into one. So before, under inquire warehouse stock balance, you would put in your warehouse code and you can search for a serial number. And then the other one, inquire stock balance, that'll search across all of the different warehouses. So here you can put in your part number and your serial number, and there's no warehouse code. So you'll search it and it'll show you what warehouse it's in. So those two are consolidated now, which is great, because before you'd sometimes have to search for what warehouse it's in and then go to the other screen to look in more detail in that other screen. So on the new one, it'll be under stock management, so it's the same link, stock maintenance, and then inquire stock availability. It's on here somewhere. And actually, since I'm not seeing it, let's do this. So we'll use the search feature, so we'll do inquire stock availability. So then you can just click on it, and it'll bring you right to it. All right, so here you can put in a warehouse code. So we'll do this one, for example. Let's see. And you can also, as you guys know, same as before, you can use the star symbol as a wildcard. So instead of typing in the full part number, I'm just putting in 10C, and it'll find any part number, 10C, and then any numbers after that. So it'll show the, whoops, didn't mean to click on that. It'll show the inquire warehouse stock balance is essentially what we're looking at right now. These icons up here, since we're here anyways, it's the same as before. You have your Ramco go back. If you hold your mouse over, it'll show it. You also have your trail bar. You can go to Inquire Stock Availability. All right, so if we were looking, let's say we're looking for this specific serial number. 315. So what we can do, and this is the same as before. You can click on anything over here. Like, for example, we'll search the serial number. It'll show you what warehouse code it was in. So before, if you wanted to look in more detail at this, you'd have to go to Inquire Warehouse Stock Balance and search for this warehouse code and the serial number to look at it closer. Here, it's combining the two screens so that you only have to do one search, and then you can change it if you need to. So, for example, let's say we want to search this serial number. If we take out this warehouse code and then search it, it's still going to find the same information, but it's not looking in that warehouse. If it wasn't in this warehouse, it would find it anywhere else, and it'll show you the warehouse code here. So some other things I want to talk about is when you search stuff, let's say you want to look at your stocks. We'll just use this warehouse as an example. If you want to look at your stock, you can search everything and then export that. Now, when I do that, it's pulling up 124 line items when I have serial number checked. And the reason why is because if you have multiple parts for the same serial number or multiple parts for the same lot number, it's going to display a line for each different serial number and each different lot number. So if we uncheck that option and then hit search, it's going to show 114 lines instead of 121. So depending on what you are looking for or what you want it for, you can change what's going to actually show up. Now, once you've searched it, you can change it also under the filter. There's a filter data icon, and you can further narrow down what exactly you're looking for. So you put in your criteria and then hit Apply Filter. You can also, there's a scroll bar here. You'll see that the scroll bar stops at this third line. And the reason why it does that, so when you scroll over, you can look and see, all the fields that are leading up to it. So what you can do, for example, is if you want to see just what's available, you can hold your mouse and carry it over, and then it's going to move it over here. So you can move it over, and then when you scroll, it's going to lock in those first 4 lines. So you can modify that as you want to. Anytime you make a change, if you want it to save it for future reference, hit Save, this pin icon, and then if you ever want to change it back to default, you can click the Remove Personalization, and it'll undo everything. Now, the Save Personalization is going to save which lines are here. It's also going to save, if you change the format of your lines, pull it all in so it's closer, it'll save it here as well. And then you'll hit Save. And like I said, every time you come back, it'll be saved to your personalization unless you change it. So another option that you guys have that's new is the Filter Columns. So you can click on this icon and uncheck any lines that you don't want to show up. So let's say you want to print something out real quick. You just want the part number, serial numbers, and the quantity. It's easier to just export it to Ramco. If you want, you can delete it in Ramco, or you can just uncheck it here so it doesn't show it. So, for example, if you don't want it to show any of these, you can remove all these lines so that it'll show just what you want. Just keep in mind, if you change it, you can always change it back or go back in and save it. Alrighty. So then it'll show a lot less columns. So depending on what you're looking for, you can put that in and save it to your personal preference. So we'll go back to the maintenance page. These icons up here are all going to be pretty much the same. So business process, your recent activities, this is what you'll click to go back to the home page. The workspace is going to be your dashboard. the show UI page. So these are just different settings you can see. When you guys get it, you can play with it and change it as you need. Most of them you won't have to worry about. If there's a new page or a new icon that we haven't covered, feel free to just ignore it until we cover it or until you run into something where you need it. These are going to be your favorites. So here's where you'll go to list out your favorites. I haven't saved any in this version yet, this one. This is where you'll go to add your favorites, and it's the exact same as it was before. You can search the activities and add it. We have a guide out there for that, and we'll make sure you guys all have it. Change user content. Most of you have just one role as a mechanic. If you have multiple roles, this is where you can go in and change, which role you want to be listed under. And then settings and new page. So new pages, if you want to pull up a new page of Ramco, look up something in a warehouse but not leave what you're on, you can just click this icon to take you right there. So back, I'm going to show you another one of my favorite things that they've added. And I know I've had this requested a lot from the field, so you guys should be happy that this came out. So you'll put in your aircraft serial number, same as always. So based off of the aircraft serial number that you put in and the date and time, it'll show you the flight hours and the flight cycles. So let's say we do January 1st, 2015 at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then click the icon for flight hours and flight cycles. It'll populate the flight hours and flight cycles based off of this date and time for this aircraft. So if we change that, and we'll just change it to today's date, it'll change the flight hours and flight cycles. Now, this data hasn't been loaded to today's date, so it's not going to be exactly right. But when production, obviously, it's going to be the correct date and time as you go. Alrighty. Another thing I want to point out is you guys, instead of using Crystal reports for printing, we're going to be using Pixel Perfect, which is an internal program. The reason why that's so nice is there's been a lot of issues with the settings with Internet Explorer and Crystal reports. You have to have the defaults all set correctly. It has to have the temporary objects all loaded. And if you guys don't have admin access on your computers, it was usually a struggle to get that in there. So with this, we should not have nearly as many issues with printing. Also before, if there was more than 120 files open at one time, nobody else could get into it. So especially, end of the month when people are pulling a bunch of reports and there's a bunch of stuff going on, there'd be times where, we'd send out an email, everyone close out of your tags because no one could get a new tag. So this is going to help a lot with that. So when you go in to get your parts tag, and we'll just do a blank one for the example, it'll pull it up on a new screen. But it won't make you do any exporting or anything like that. It was working before they brought it down, so we'll see. So let me try something here. There we go. All right, so now it's showing the drop-down you guys will see. So this should be very, very similar to what you're seeing now. And there's only 3 links that are different, and I'll cover all of those. But just for the example, we'll go to Reports Management, Material Reports, and Generate Parts Tag. It's the exact same as it was in the old system. There's also the shortcut for it on the Discrepancy tab. So we'll pull up our blank parts tag. And this looks like it's working better, so we'll see. Nope. All right, so in the parts tag, and it's not pulling up now, sorry about that, but it'll bring up your parts tag normal like it always does. In the top, you'll see a little pop-up box, and there'll be a save icon and a print icon. The save icon automatically saves it as a PDF, and wherever you start saving stuff, every time you hit save, it's always going to try to go back to that folder. So it's going to remember that. You won't have to do any exporting and changing the PDF and then save as. You just hit the save icon. You know, you can change the folder location you want to save it at and change the name of the file, and that's all you have to do. So sorry that's not working to show you guys that. But it will be better, I promise. All right, so we'll look at those new fields. So the new ones, instead of being, before it was business process, line maintenance, and this is the one I've already covered, and then record aircraft maintenance execution details. Now it's going to be business process, aircraft maintenance execution, and record aircraft maintenance execution details. The other one is the one we covered that is the stock management, stock maintenance, and then inquire stock availability. So that replaces where before it was business process, stock management, stock maintenance, inquire warehouse stock balance, and also inquire stock balance. So these two right here, that one link replaces. The other one that's different is going to be procurement management, and then goods inward, and then manage goods receipt. So before it used to be procurement management, and then unified goods receipt, and then manage goods receipt. So as you guys can see, these three are the only ones that have really changed, and they're still very similar. And what you can do is, you know, type in manage goods receipt, and it'll find it. And then you can just click the link right here, and it'll bring you to it. All right. Now we will put out a separate guide for goods receipt. We're also going to put out some other guides for some changes that have happened, and we'll post those. Those will be under, if you go to the portal, and actually let me see if I still have. We'll include that in an email. I'll send out a follow-up email. I'm sorry, guys. This one's a little bit more unplanned because it was down and we're trying to get it up last minute there. But we'll send out a link where all that new stuff is going to be saved. We are still working on some of the guides, so just keep an eye out for those, and we'll update them as we get them. So another thing that has changed, and we'll go back to inquire stock availability. I'm just going to use my recent activities since we've been there. And that is going to be part conditions. So before, anything that had in a part type is expendable did not have a condition tracked against it. So you'll see in Ramco where it has condition, it'll be blank. Well, if we look in the old one. So just to show you guys. So I'm just looking for part type expendable and searching that. You'll see every condition is blank, and that's because Ramco was not tracking anything with part type expendable, whether it be serial or lot controlled. No condition was tracked against it. So in the new one, same warehouse, we're going to do part type as expendable and search that. You will see everything right now is showing up as blank, and that's because we're just exporting the data from 5.4 to 5.7. So if it didn't have a condition before, it's not going to have a condition in 5.7. However, as we continue to receive parts and change parts out on the aircraft and update the conditions as we go, you will see the conditions changing. So for example, if I take out the warehouse code, so it searches against all warehouses, and the type is expendable. And then just for example, I'm going to do the condition is serviceable just to narrow it down and then search that. You'll see that there are expendable parts in 5.7 that are serviceable. So these are ones that we either did on, a parts removal to test it or, a goods receipt to test it, something like that, where we had marked the condition as serviceable on an expendable part to make sure it was updating. The reason why it's important to know that condition has changed is because before, if you had an expendable part, when you go to print your parts tag, you have to select what condition it is for the parts tag to come up correctly. So now you'll have to, try it If it works without a condition, great. If not, you'll have to select that condition so that it shows the parts tag with the condition that you want it to have. Another reason why that's important is when you guys do stock transfers, let's say you're doing a stock transfer to another warehouse, if the part is not in a serviceable condition, you cannot put it in most warehouses. So there are some, maintenance sites that allow unserviceable conditions, but most warehouses will require it be in a serviceable condition, so you'll just have to pay attention to that. And that's the exact same how it's been for any components, any serialized parts with part type component. The condition would have stopped you, and this will actually prevent a lot of issues that we were having before. So, something was unserviceable, you accidentally returned it to your warehouse. Ramco will stop that now and say, if you're putting it back in your warehouse, it has to be serviceable, and then it'll be kind of a reminder, oh, it's unserviceable, I meant to send it to processing. So there'll be more catches for that. And another thing I wanted to point out, sorry, I know I'm kind of all over the place. I'm going to go back to the AME page. I just wanted to point out there are now 2 check marks available. Before there used to only be 1, and now there's 2. If you use the wrong one, you'll get an error message. Just close out of the error message and then use the correct one. So there's a complete. Don't worry about that. Just ignore it. Use this green check mark. An easy reference is these 2 check marks match each other. Also, if you hold your mouse over it, it'll say close. And when you use this one, it's to close the log card. So just use this green check here for close. And that is pretty much the main differences. Like I said, we will go over some of the processes in more detail that require it. Most of them are similar enough that it won't make a difference. No, I don't. And then there's some more things that will be coming out, too. Some of the stuff that's changing in 5.7 is stuff that only people that are working in the shops will have to worry about. There'll be a new kit building process coming out, and that'll be, the guys in the warehouse will be able to send you a kit instead of a bunch of individual pieces. So you guys only have to worry about your end. It's going to be smaller issues, but we'll cover that in more detail when it comes out. Also, there's going to be a new scrap process. Again, that's going to be mostly for the guys in the warehouse, and we'll cover that in more details when it comes out. So another thing that's coming in the future that'll be nice is being able to sign off parts that are showing up in stock. So let's say you have a lock bottle that's been in your shelf for a while. You do the purge. The task is negative, so you can't issue it to the aircraft or attach it. You guys will have the ability to go in and update that you did a purge on that lock bottle. But like I said, that's coming in the future, so don't worry about it now, but that will be an enhancement that's coming to 5.7. We don't have a date on it, but hopefully by July or sometime after that. All right, and that is pretty much everything. And again, I am sorry that